Sherman Oaks, California. Liberate yourself. Thank you to our hosts here. Give them a round of applause. It's a beautiful day. God bless everybody. First and foremost, just want to thank everybody for taking their time today. You know, it's busy and got a lot going on, but we're here for a good cause. Social Equity LA, briefly, is a nonprofit organization that was founded a few years ago based on the need, to have economic impact, workforce development, and make sure that we were the bosses of our own, industries, our own businesses, and also empowering individuals, people that are formerly incarcerated, minorities, and women as well, to make sure we have a space like today. And really, that's what we try to do, is to empower others and share that light. I have a daughter as well. She's a grown woman now. She's 20-something, 22. Definitely the future is female for me and my household. And I can't say enough about all the work and the partners that we've had here, maybe men and women, but I just want to go around and thank a few people. First and foremost, Hannah Ashby, please give her we have Christian, who's been amazing. He's our designer. He's our super we have a bunch of partners, brands, departments that are here to speak to you. So my job is really to get out the way, bring Danny back here, and if he can introduce our keynote speaker, we'll get right into the show. You guys, please give Danny a round of applause as well.
All right, so our first speaker, she's pretty important in this industry. She's a Deputy Director of Legal Affairs for the Department of Cannabis Control. So those of us that are already in the space, the DCC, yeah, they play a big role in what we do, right? So we got Tamara Colson, who's the Deputy Director of Legal Affairs. She's responsible for leading the team that provides support services to DCC divisions with legal research, guidance, and representation. She came to the DCC from the Bureau of Cannabis Control, which was a BCC back then, right? In addition to serving as Assistant Chief Counsel, she took on the role of Acting Bureau Chief in 2020. During her distinguished career, she has also served as Assistant General Counsel at the California Department of Consumer Affairs, Chief Prosecuting Counsel at the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, and Administrative Law Judge at the California Office of Administrative Hearing. She's also served as Special Assistant Inspector General, Deputy Attorney General. Ms. Colson began her legal career in private practice and has subsequently spent over 20 years in state service. So let's give Ms. Tamara Colson a round of applause as she comes up to the stage.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me here today to celebrate with you and to have these important discussions about living in cannabis. I think he covered kind of my story and how where I've been in the cannabis space. But essentially, back in 2015, I was working at the Department of Consumer Affairs in their legal shop there, and legislation was pending, the MMRSA, for those of us who've been around a long time, for the medicinal cannabis, and that bureau was going to be established within the Department of Consumer Affairs. So I started working on establishing that bureau back then in my prior role, and then later in 2016, once the bureau was up and running, they moved me over there so that I could work with Lori Ajax in terms of getting the bureau up and running and all of the legal matters that come with that. And then I transitioned into the Department of Cannabis Control when it was finally created. So spent a little bit of time doing this. It's been, for those of you who've been at it a while, and I see some familiar faces from the years. As you know, it's always interesting, always exciting, and there's always important new issues to tackle. So what I was going to do is just kind of give you a little overview of some of the things that are going on in the department, in particular in the equity space, and then if I can manage to not be too long-winded, we'll leave some time for questions, but I think there'll be questions you might want to get answered. So Many of you may know the Department of Cannabis Control is rather new. In fact, we will turn 1 on July 12th, so this is very exciting. Yes. We're very excited about that. And so we have been going about things the last year to really start melting together the department, taking the programs, the legacy programs, and making them into one. So that's probably been a lot of what you've seen from us this year, is that we took, as you know, the 3 legacy departments. You already mentioned DCC, but also Cannabis from California Department of Food and Ag, and the Office of Manufactured Safety from the Department of Public Health. And so in July, the governor created this new department so that we could pull all those licensing programs under the same roof. I know a lot of you hopefully are excited about that because we kept hearing about it, how difficult it was to deal with 3 different entities. And so they went ahead and did that. Unfortunately, it's not as quick as we hope, but it takes a little time to get all the different processes to figure out what the new processes are. And some of you may have been dealing with us with that. So thank you for your patience. But that really has been a primary focus for us, is streamlining, lining up our processes. We hope to one day have 1 licensing system instead of 3. But as you know, those kinds of tasks take a while, so we're working on it. But and we're working each day to try to make things a little clearer, a little more consistent, a little more streamlined for you. So hopefully you're seeing some of that. We're going to continue to do that. So basically the department now does all of the cannabis licensing for all of the different pieces of the supply chain. And that's our cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, testing labs, retail. So now you can just come to that one place, and that's what we're doing. And then we're of course working cooperatively with the other state agencies like Water Board and Fish and Wildlife if you're a cultivator, as well as California Department of Tax and Fee, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about inclusion and diversity. The department, as hopefully you've noticed, we hold that in really high esteem, and we're looking to have a just and diverse industry. I think one of the great things about the new department is we've got a position that didn't exist in the other programs, and that's the Deputy Director of Equity and Inclusion. I don't know if any of you have dealt with our wonderful Deputy Director, Eugene Hiltman. He is focused on equity issues throughout the department. So he's a great resource. He's also very knowledgeable. So, you know, hopefully if you haven't interacted with him, you'll have the opportunity to. I wanted to talk about women at the DCC because this is a Women in Cannabis. And, you know, I heard people talking, you know, about women's representation in the industry and how that needs to, you know, develop further. I will say that DCC, I think we're quite proud of the fact that we do have a strong female presence in our executive management. We have a female director. Our wonderful Nicole Elliott. We have a female deputy director, Rachel Salama, who's another wonderful asset. And then at the deputy director level, right further down, the majority of the deputy directors at the department are female. And so there's definitely a small female presence. We also have a very, very diverse staff of executive management and our staff as a whole. So I just wanted to mention that we are doing many things at the state that are focused on equity. In total, I think the state this year committed $167 million over different programs in California to address equity issues. One of the things you'll see is our grant programs. Those grant programs with equity grants, they give money to local jurisdictions to help them develop equity programs, assess the need for them, provide direct support to equity licensees and applicants, including things like loans, technical assistance, finding space. Those grants originally started at the Bureau of Cannabis Control. They have now shifted over to GoBiz. We used to do them in conjunction with them, but GoBiz is counseling those. They do a lot of grants, so that is their primary role. So if you're interested in that, the GoBiz website is a great place to go. And they have all the information about the requirements and who has received equity grants. Those grants go to your local jurisdictions, and then they perform all of those things I talked about. So definitely, if you might want to check it out, see if your jurisdiction has an equity grant, because if they do, you'll want to follow up with them because they should be doing activities related to equity to get that money out to help equity applicants or to build a program for you. We also have the local jurisdiction assistance grant program that came on board last year, and that is actually money that's dedicated and goes to local jurisdictions to help them move provisional licensees to annual licensure to help with that process. We know that that's something that people have been struggling with, and it also impacts your ability to come to the state to get the license. So the budget last year dedicated $100 million to do that with local jurisdictions. The important thing I wanted to mention about that is if they're in a jurisdiction that has an equity program, they are eligible for additional funding from their base funding for that. So part of that is going, making sure that a lot of that money is going to jurisdictions that in fact do have equity programs. If you want to know more about grant funding, if you go to our website and About Us, you'll see a grant funding, and it'll tell you the different grants that are related to the Department of Cannabis Control. The other thing we're doing is we're offering technical assistance with our application process. I don't know if any of you have taken advantage of that, but if you do need technical assistance with your state process, you can, I'm going to give this email, equity@cannabis.ca.gov, and you'll hear me mention that. So that's a team that's dedicated to helping equity licensees and applicants. So if you need technical assistance, please email them. They'll get back to you. But that service is available if anyone's interested in that. The other thing is fee waivers. I'm sure you guys, many of you are aware of that, our fee waiver program. That started this year. We rolled that out in January. And essentially what it allows us to do is to give waivers to people who were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. There's certain criteria in terms of your business's income as well as the business itself must be at least 50% equity owned. And so, but they are fee waivers. The way we're doing them at the moment is that the person's entitled to one fee waiver for the year. So not every license, pick your most expensive license if you want, but that is a way to, and that waives state fees for your state fees for licensing. There's a short application. Again, you'll find that on our website, cannabis.ca. And so if you're interested in that, please take a look at that. We seem to be getting a pretty good response, and we'll continue to do that until the minute of that. The other thing we have in the works right now are fee deferrals. And fee deferrals would give you a little extra time to pay your license fees if you need that. Probably not as exciting as fee waivers, but it is another tool to help with the fluctuations in business and those sorts of things or other issues that comes up. What I want to mention about both the fee waivers and the fee deferrals is the fee waiver program right now is in place by what we call an emergency regulation. That means basically the legislature said get us up and running very quickly. So we didn't have time to go through the whole process. Many of you probably participated in that process. But right now we are in process for what we call our regular rulemaking, a more measured approach where we have longer comment periods and there's hearings and those sorts of things. And so we're in that process right now, our package for fee waivers and for fee deferrals. So that comment period is active. Really encourage you, if you haven't, to please take a look at all the materials. If you read the text, it'll tell you what it's going to say. If you read this weird document, it'll say ISOR or initial statement of reasons. Look at that too. It'll help you. What it really is it goes through all the proposed language, explains what it's supposed to do, what we think it does, and why we're doing it. And so a lot of people, I think, don't know what that document is. It's very helpful if you're trying to get your thoughts together and your comments together. That's also, if you're on our listserv, you would have gotten the announcement with the links. It's also up on our website. So definitely a great opportunity to weigh in. We really want to hear from you. We want to get these right. And so please check that out if you haven't had a chance. One of the other things you'll see is as we transitioned into the new department, we did at the prior programs, we had some licenses with lower barriers to entry that were created with that in mind. Through the Bureau, we created the delivery-only license, we created the transport-only distributor license, and then out of public health, they have a shared facilities license for shared kitchens for manufacturers due to, in large part, due to the cost of commercial kitchens. Those license types have remained intact through the consolidation, so those are still opportunities for people who are looking at license types that maybe don't require a large premises or large manufacturing equipment. So I want to say that. We also have launched an equity page on our website. I encourage you to take a look at it. If you go to our website under resources, in that drop down, you're going to find equity. And that has all kinds of information about what equity programs are available, what we do, some explanations. So you might want to go ahead and take a look at that as well. And then we also, in this year's budget, as you know, there were some changes in the tax structure that were in the budget. So you'll see the cultivation tax going away for a period of time. We're going to move to retail the ability to collect the taxes, so the distributors are not having to do it. And there are some provisions for equity applicants for some tax credits. So please take a look at that if that's something that is of interest to you. Okay. So, the other thing I wanted to mention that I thought you might be interested in terms of the department tools and websites, one of the things we've got now is a map, and it's a map that tells you where cannabis businesses are allowed, what jurisdictions, and so you can go onto it, and you'll see in our website, if you go to cannabis laws, you'll see a thing that says where cannabis businesses or can be located. And so it's got some statistics, and then it's also got a map where you can look at the map and it has dots to kind of show you where they're located. So according to ours, all right, let's see, does anybody know how many jurisdictions allow no cannabis activity at all? Based on our research. 57%. It's high. Yeah. And then you have, I know, isn't that's really high. So, and then 62% have no retail. So that really limits retail. That's right. I'm a lawyer. I only give licenses. I agree with you. I know. And then 43% allow at least one type. But those are still some pretty high numbers. So hopefully, as things progress, we'll see more and more jurisdictions coming online to allow legal cannabis activity. With hopefully some of the grant funding that's gone out, in particular the ones to allow them to develop retail programs that was in the budget this year. Hopefully, once that is off the ground, that might help as well to get more jurisdictions on board to join it. So I want to talk a little bit about rulemaking because I'm a lawyer and this is a lot of what my folks and I do. And for those of you who may be new to the cannabis industry's regulation, rulemaking are just the regulations. They're essentially the rules that you live by and that tell you what you can and can't do. To do that though, there's two types of processes. One's the emergency regs. We've used those a lot. You've seen those where you'll hear from us, here's the information, oh, and you have 10 days to put it in the comments. Unfortunately, that's a double-edged sword. It's a shorter time to respond, but at the same time, it allows us to get some of these things that are passed in the law up and running more quickly. Then we have the regular rulemaking process, and that's where we just start under a regular, it's a more extended process. And once we've done an emergency regulation, it can't be in place forever. We only have a certain amount of time, and so like right now, you'll see we're working on regular packages for emergency regs that are already in place in several areas. And that is so that we can get them in place permanently. And hopefully they will become a little more static. You know, the law changes in front of us really fast. And so we're trying to get as much settled as we can for you so the changes are minimal. But course, and that depends on what the different legislation is. So basically, the rulemaking process is an opportunity for the public to weigh in. So what you all, if you got our email search, you may have seen recently, we sent out several notices for packages that are in the public comment period. And what essentially happens is we send them out, we give you 45 days to send comments back to us. We evaluate it, we determine if we're going to make any additional changes based on the comments. If we do, we resend it back out to you, and typically that's a 15-day period. Comes back to us, and then we do that until we're done, and then we put together a full package, and in that full package will be written responses to every comment we've received for that rulemaking, and then we submit it to the Office of Administrative Law for approval, and then it comes to and so that's the process. And the reason I'm explaining it is because it's really important that everybody's aware that those public comment periods are times where you can send us information and we can review it. You can send it by email, you can send it by mail. You can also attend one of our hearings. So I want to go through just a couple of these because they're important, and I want to make sure you guys are aware they're out there, so that you can participate. One of the things I will say about comments, you can comment on whatever you want, but if you tell us not just what you want, but why, that's very helpful to us because we have to explain why we're adopting it. We can't just say, oh, it's just a comment. They wanted it. We have to explain the reasoning. So a lot of times we hear from people things like, oh, we don't like this is the wrong threshold or whatnot, but they don't give us the alternative. And so then we're left to try to figure out what we think that is. So to the extent possible, if you can explain, what's wrong, what you want, why, that gives us way more information so that we can do a thorough evaluation. During the public comment period, all of that is done just kind of one way in writing, so there's not a lot of flexibility to go back and forth with you. So please just keep that in mind. And that way we can do the best analysis of the comment as possible. So what we have is, I talked about our equity fee and deferral waiver program. That is in public comment right now. There is a hearing on August 2nd for that. The hearing is where you can make comments. We don't respond to them, but we take them down and they're included. And the public comment period also includes on August 2nd. We have the standardized cannabinoid test method regulation packet. What this is, it's a standard method that all the labs will need to use to test for cannabinoids. The idea behind this package is that consistency should produce better results, more accurate results. That also, all right, yay, we got to take her back there. Yeah, I think, in all the time I've been here, and every time we go through a reg cycle or public feedback cycle, that's one of the main things we hear. So the cannabinoids and all of these three packages I'm going to talk to, they're targeted to be effective January 1. So we're hoping so they'll be in place fairly soon. So the standard cannabinoid test method, again, there's a hearing on August 1st. These are virtual, by the way, and they're on our website. And then on August 2nd, the period closes. So that's another important one. It will change how cannabis is tested, hopefully for the better. And then we also have our large cannabis licenses program. Prior to this time, the large cannabis licenses over an acre and over 20,000 square feet, we could not even issue licenses for that. We can now. So that package is also in public comment period, which is hearing on August 1st and closing on August 2nd. But this will allow some folks with smaller size, multiple smaller licenses to instead get one large license, which I think is probably easier for the cultivator and definitely from a workload perspective, better for us as well. So those are the three. And then if you're on our list, you probably got a listserv email yesterday telling you that we are in a 15-day public comment to the consolidated regulations. I know there's a lot of them at one time. We're just trying to get as much done as we can. So that was the package that we sent out in March. Many of you I know commented on. It is the follow-up to the emergency regs that were the complete consolidated regulation package. So the one where we merged the regulations from all three licensing authorities. It's the one that's about 500 pages. The changes though, look for the double strike and the double underlines. All those single ones were from the last round. So that's a public comment period as well. Again, another really important package because that's going to put those regs in place and that will be our framework for a while. So would love to hear from you guys on that as well. So we also have, just so you know, you go onto our website as well, and we'll making, not only do you find those packages, there's a link to a public comment template form. You don't have to use it, but if you want to, it's there for your convenience. But please send them in separately for each package so it gets in the right spot. Because we'll want it with each one. So those are some of the big highlights of what's been going on at the department. We are continuing though to merge the different processes and practices and rules from the 3 legacy departments. We're continuing to take a look at our processes in general, just to see if we can streamline them. We will continue to improve our regulations. It's been a while. I think we had all kind of planned on changing them based on dialogue we've had with all of you a year or 2 ago. But with consolidation, the timing got a little different. But we just wanted to let you know that that's going to continue. So please take a look in those. And we'll, of course, be continuing on with our different equity programs, trying to strengthen those. And there's one other tool I'm going to mention too for you when it comes to equity fee waivers. If you go onto our website, it has the criteria, your income criteria. But some of the ones in income criteria, 5 million, then there's the 50% equity, and then there's the additional criteria, and often it's rest or if you live in certain areas and sort of things. There is actually a tool, it's being updated right now, but there is a tool where you can put in your address and it will tell you whether or not you fall into one of those jurisdictions. So I just wanted to mention that because if you jump on the website, you may not see it. And I know that it's probably hard to figure all that out because if it's 25% of the census data for this area, so we did create a tool to make it easy. Hopefully it will. So that's pretty much kind of the overview I have prepared for you today. And I just want to thank you for your participation in the regulated market. We so appreciate all the communication. I think I worked at Consumer Affairs where we had 38 licensing entities, and I worked with all of them. And I worked with Alcoholic Beverage Control that licenses alcohol. And I will say one of the things that I love about working in my job now is the interplay between us and the industry. I know when we first started going, we were going around to all these meetings and people were sharing information, and that still continues. That is not true in a lot of other industries. And we think it's really helpful to us, to you, and we certainly really value that and want to continue that as the department moves on and we kind of figure this out together. I think there's going to be a lot going on. The industry has changed since we started, so we're looking at that. There's not sure what's happening on the federal front for sure, but it looks like they're moving a little bit in a certain direction. That will change things as well. Hopefully open up banking and whatnot if that does occur. So we still have, I think, a lot of changes and work to do with you. And so I just want to really encourage you to keep up that communication. Hopefully it's helpful to you, but I know it's really helpful to us. And I know my director and affiliate and all the rest of our team really value that about this industry. Do I have time for questions?
Yeah, let's do 1 or 2 questions.
1 or 2 questions? If anyone has one? No, thank you.
So real quick, a round of applause. Any questions out there? 1 or 2 dying questions or anything someone has to ask right up front?
Yeah, how many jurisdictions?
We got 1 here and then we can go to her after. Danny? Oh, go ahead.
All right. How many jurisdictions is there in LA or in the Sacramento Valley?
I don't know exactly off the top of my head. There's several different ones. So in part it depends on, so if you're in the city of LA, even though say your neighborhood might be called something else, your licensing authority would be the city of Los Angeles. If you're in the county or in an incorporated count and an incorporated part of Beacon County. If you are having trouble figuring out what your local jurisdiction is, please go ahead and just email us. You can email equity at cannabis.ca.gov or info@cannabis.ca.gov. You also, look at the interactive map for where it's allowed and where it's not. It does say the percentage and the number of jurisdictions that that allow or don't allow. I'm not sure if it has a breakdown of every jurisdiction within a certain area, but you could take a look and see if that, if you show you that or not.
If you were going to call out of the new proposed consolidated regs that you mentioned were just released, if you were to call out like your top 2 or 3 like biggest changes that will put operators at risk, I know that's a big blanket statement, but if you had to call out the ones that you perceive to be like the ones that might trip us up, what would you say those will be? Off the top of your head, I know that's a little complicated, but
Then breathe it. So let me say 2 things. One is, when you see this, if you looked at it, you're gonna see single strikeouts and underlines. That was from the first one, and you gave us all your feedback on that. So for this one, it's just the stuff we have changed since then. And that's what you'll see in the 15 days. That's why I say, read the modification document with that text, because it explains exactly what has been changed. Everything is not been changed, just a small percentage of it, and that's in double bold, I have it underlined. So you don't have to worry about everything else you've already done before, it's just those. And it is primarily what we feel are sort of clarifications. I don't think there's a lot that's really going to trip you up, but there are some things that I don't know what industries, or what parts of the industry we're thinking about. Like, for example, we clarified that you can have shipping containers. You can, and some different things like that. So we got that, we clarified the advertising. I don't think most of it's going to trip you up, though. I really don't. I think a lot of it there were several places where when we read through comments, it became clear to us that what we were trying to convey was not what you were hearing or reading, right? So like things like for the cultivators or some issues with, if there's a resident on your premises. And they even said absolutely, but we said no, even if the locals required it. But we thought what we were saying, well, if the locals require it, we're going to let you do that. So we did some stuff like that where I think what we thought we were doing, you guys were receiving the message that way. It was like, we can't be shipping containers now. It's like, well, we intended you to be able to. So there's a lot of places like that where we tweak language. We've added some definitions here and there for clarity, like a definition of chirping. So I don't think there's a lot that's good, but chirping is probably one. And then some of the others, I think, are really more, in my mind, more good.
thank you for
But still read them, because I think they're a clarification. You might think differently. We want to know that.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you
that
so much
answer.
for
And
having
on that note, before I give her a round of applause, just make sure that, we're doing our homework. Read the clip notes at the very least, with a couple of underlines, right? But more importantly, as you hear, a lot of it is about engagement, and you guys have someone here who is in the department, and always being able to communicate is important. And more so, to her point is correct, that being in government and what they're looking to do, both the city and the state, to engage stakeholders and really take that feedback is critical, and it doesn't always happen, so definitely take advantage of it. So thank you for that, and appreciate it. So briefly, just want to mention we have a special guest, Ms. Dr. Amani Brown from the LA City Department of Cannabis Regulation. It's great when we can get our partners together. So with that, before we transition into the panels, which are very exciting, we want to make sure you guys get some time to eat. So we're setting up the food. Great Gaucho Grill, I believe, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much for providing the lunch today. For setting that up. So we're going to go ahead and take about a 15, 20 minute or 30-minute break to get your food, and then we'll get the other last 2 panels going. All right? Thank you.
I have a little while.
We'll be back at 12:30 for those of you guys doing your own little breaks or all that.
Look at that, man. Look at that. That's what a $2,000 lens is. Oh, it's so amazing. It's so beautiful. Yeah,
Hey, bye, nice to meet you. Yes. All 3 years of putting in work. That's how
Get my knife.
I guess I always used to do that because it always make me feel like this is the time, like right Oh, you see it? Oh, nice to meet you. That's really cool. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for sending me. I know sometimes it's like, who are these people? What is it? And people don't like
So when yes, yes,
70. The 70 to 200. Oh, she said we could get food. All right, yeah, we'll wait till everyone's done with food. Go ahead and pull out that lens.
I don't know. I actually don't know. As long as we don't see it, elementary school.
Just going handheld.
I'm going handle with this one.
What?
I'm going handle with this one.
Okay, cool. And then you can take some pictures too with it too. Oh, you got that lens?
Oh, it's beautiful.
I think I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't bring anything up. I just, with my baby, I have to rush out. I came late because I had to drop off my daycare.
Like, go with me. Where you going?
Yeah, straight up.
I love it right there.
It's your brand. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. When you want to do like maybe a 5 minute round, Gotcha. We're trying to get them dialing back.
But be friendly.
Alright.
Thank you.
Get started in 5 minutes. Just do a 5-minute warning. Do a 5-minute warning.
Louis. They need you in the back for something. We're asking for you in the back. T-shirt.
can hear me, clap once. If y'all can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Y'all can't hear me. If y'all can hear me, clap once. If y'all can hear me, clap twice. I used to work in preschools. That's a real story. I really did. We got 2-minute warning before we get started. We got 2 minutes. Go ahead, grab your food, take your seats. Once we get started.
Yeah, 4th of July was a nice day. Yeah, it was pretty
We're gonna try this one more time. If y'all can hear me, clap once. If y'all can hear me, clap twice. If y'all can hear me, say women in cannabis. Women in cannabis. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Again, for those that maybe came in later, my name is Danny. I'm with SED Connects. We're a radio show committed to focusing on people of color, brands of color, and minorities in the cannabis space. We'd love to be able to share stories and experiences to be able to educate and empower our communities through storytelling and experiences by people that look like us, for the people that look like us. During the break, I had a few people ask, where can they follow? It's SED Connects, CED Connects on YouTube, CED_Connects on Instagram. We have a few familiar faces that have already been on the show. We have Susie Placencia, who was on the most recent episode. We also have Tiana with Queen Mary, who was also on the episode as well. So make sure to support the women that are in the space, hear their stories, and open invitation for anyone else that wants to be on the show. Hit me up, and we'll get you guys on. All right. We're gonna move on with the panel. I'm gonna start off with introducing Tammy Pettigrew, who I'm sure everyone is excited to hear from, aka the Cannabis Cutie, right? A little bit about Tammy. She went to the U, right? She went to the U, the Canes. Y'all don't know about that? What's up, the U? She She does TV, podcasts, cannabis education. That's her wheelhouse. That's her realm. So I'm excited to just learn more from the knowledge that she has with the panel, with this panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and just hand it off to Tammy and allow her to do her thing. So give a round of applause to Tammy as we go ahead and start with this panel.
Hello and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be at a cannabis event where the space is mostly female. Because as we know, typically when we go to these types of events, we are not the majority in the room. So this is beautiful to see, and I'm grateful to be here with you all today. So my name is Tammy. Some of you may know me as Cannabis Cutie, and like Danny said, I do TV, podcasting, and education, which is mostly, again, in my wheelhouse. And today I have with me Olivia from Kush Queen, founder and CEO, as well as Joe, who is from Rogue. So let's start with Olivia. Can you tell us about yourself and your brand?
Hey everybody. So I actually started in 2006 in the industry as a bud tender. And that's where I just fell in love with cannabis. I fell in love with the plant. Over the years, I started working in the industry, doing basically everything, selling weed to my friends, growing, learning how to extract, doing social media. I became a really large social media influencer back in the day, and then I got deleted off the face of Instagram. In 2013, I started a company called The Crystal Cult. I was making Swarovski crystal vape pens and accessories. I was selling t-shirts that said Kush Queen. The vape for weed was called Kush Queen. And I didn't really enjoy selling vapes at the time that had to have crystals put on one by one, lesson in scaling. And so I sort of reimagined the brand in 2015. We started with a bath bomb. It put us on the map. We're in the compliant market in California. We sell hemp products online. And we have about 80 SKUs now. And then I just wrote a book called The Essential Guide to Cannabis for Women. And I just really love cannabis. I love women in cannabis. And since it's a female plant, I really think we should own this space.
Amen to that. Thank you. And next we have Joe from Rogue. Can you please introduce yourself and your business?
Hi, my name is Jo. I'm one of the co-founders and the VP of Business Development at Rogue. Rogue is a California-based brand. Originally, we launched in 2016, and now we're in 7 states. We started off with vape pens, and we've expanded to some other categories, including flower, pre-rolls, concentrates, a new drink line. And a little bit of my background, I started smoking as a young teenager. I was probably about 13. Much to everyone's demise around me, they just thought that it was the worst thing I could be getting myself into. It was going to ruin my life. And so I dealt with that. And a few years later, I had my son. And that was the next thing that they thought was going to ruin my life. And yeah, so those two things that everybody around me always thought that was the worst thing that could have happened to me, or the worst choices that I could be making at the time, turned out to be two of the absolute best things ever for me personally. And it was because of my son that I stayed. I stayed out of a lot of things that I could have easily gotten into. And because I was into cannabis, I think that was why I stayed away from other harder drugs. And instead of a lot of people thinking that that was going to be my gateway, that was my only thing that I really ever got into. And because I had my son, I was focused, I was driven, I was motivated to not become a statistic and to be able to raise him. They told me that a woman can't raise a man, and that, it was a driving force for me. And when I tried to do what society tells you to do, as far as later I went to college. I struggled so hard. That's a whole other thing, but with a child, especially in California, you guys know, even on your own, it's hard to survive in California with nothing. And then with a child to feed, it's almost impossible. And, thank goodness there's certain programs for women and women with children. And, I ended up going to community college and transferring to Cal State Long Beach. And I thought that was going to be, that was what I was supposed to do. And even out of college, I couldn't get paid anything. I couldn't survive. I couldn't make it. And on the side of my job, I was doing project management for electrical contractors after I graduated in 2011, and I started trimming on the side for a family friend, and just on the side. And I ended up, he started a company. He helped somebody start a company, and they hired me to do sales for them. And I didn't have the confidence in myself to know that I could make it. I took a leap in faith because they told me, this is perfect for you. You love weed, why don't you sell it? And they offered me, a commission, and I did the math in my head what I needed to be making to survive, and I just had that number in my mind, and I never gave up, and I sold enough weed to start paying my bills. And from there, I worked for a few different legacy brands before we started Row in 2016. It's the same family friend and also one of my brothers. And it just, cannabis gave me a way to provide for my son and to, just finally, be able to survive in California. And yeah, thank God. Sorry, I'm so nervous. I'm happy. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here with all of you women, because it just, if I can make it with nothing, with a child, and with everything working against me, and with everyone thinking that I was just the biggest sheet in the wind and never going to make anything out of myself, and if I can do anything that I'm doing right now, you guys can do all that and more. Anyways, thank you for putting on this event for women, and thank you for letting me share a little bit of my story with all of you guys.
Thank you for sharing that, and shout out to all the Canna moms out there. We have such a task ahead of us. I have 2 children myself, and my daughter is very pro-cannabis, and she came home and she's like, there was a police officer at our school saying bad things about cannabis. I'm like, please tell me you didn't correct him. So we definitely have a task, and yes, surviving in California in this industry and with children is very difficult, so give yourselves a round of applause for that. All right, so thank you both for sharing a little bit about your journey in cannabis, but I want to know, what was your biggest moment, both good and bad?
That's really tough. Let me think. I think the biggest moment for me was in 2017, I believe. No, 2019. A fashion brand named Alice and Olivia. They reached out to us on LinkedIn. So ladies, keep up your LinkedIn. It really can work for you. And they wanted us to make CBD products for them. And then I ended up at New York Fashion Week as a weed girl. I'm like, I'm not famous, and I am next to Addison Rae. Okay. And really just getting to be in mainstream spaces for me is something that I'm really passionate about. It's like I grew up with the Cannabis Cup. Those are our people. It's fine. Where I really want to be is changing people's minds, is shepherding the plant to people who've never tried CBD before. So that was a really big moment. And Alice and Olivia is a $300 million a year women-owned brand. So to be able to be that person, they collaborated with Starbucks. I was like, okay. My worst moment, let me think about what my worst moment is. I would say it was probably early days when I first got out of my parents' garage, because I started Kush Queen in my parents' garage. I used to have pallets of baking soda delivered to a residential street. I know, in Santa Clarita. And my dad was like, get out. And right when I first got into my warehouse, I moved to Van Nuys, to the very dry part of LA. And when I tell you, scaling the product, I had an order from Ben. I'll never forget. It was I don't know, $30,000 or something. I was like, oh my God, I have to make all these bath bombs. And I realized like, oh my gosh, I have to scale my business. My bath bombs were combusting. Literally, I was in like way over my head, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have a plan. And I made a sign, and it said like 0 days since we've cried over broken bath bombs, like a work injury sign. And we got through it, but we had to stop everything. We had to literally stop running the business. We had to get rid of the formula. We had to reformulate. We had to scale up our business. And it was the worst moment, but the thing about the worst moment, it's the moment that makes you. It's the moment that teaches you everything. And I know that hard work, and especially like physical labor, is no good. But in those moments is where I literally found my confidence. I actually had, I learned, and that's when I really became, say, a businesswoman, even though to this day I'm not, I'm just a menace. But it's really the worst moment that makes you. So I would say I have a million, but those are two big moments for me. Thank you.
And Joe, can you share your biggest moment in cannabis, both good and bad?
Okay, so before I go into the moments, I do want to touch real briefly on times. So the hardest time, just because I feel like it's so important, the hardest time was in the legacy days for me, having a child selling cannabis. I was so stressed out all the time, just feeling like someone was going to find out, someone at his school, I was going to get in trouble, I was going to get caught at a raid, they were going to take my son. I'm a single mom, so if anything happened to me, then I was just always, I just lived with that constant anxiety. And so when that changed, even though, legalization was such a controversial subject, but for me, it just changed everything for Canna moms, because they finally got some security that they could be in this industry and not have the constant fear of getting their child taken away. So I just wanted to real briefly touch on that, because I feel like as far as times, those were very impactful for me personally. And for moments, before Roe, I worked for a company that offered me, my first job in cannabis, they offered me a commission. I touched on it briefly, but they offered me a commission to start. And I told you guys, I didn't negotiate, I accepted it. And I just calculated in my mind how much sales I would need to make for me to make the X amount of dollars that I needed to be making. And just so happened that when I started hitting those numbers, they changed the commission on me. And that was the worst moment for me, to have someone change the deal. Instead of you getting rewarded for what you did, you actually, got almost penalized. And so that was the worst moment. And ladies, don't let anyone ever do that to you. Get your deal in writing. Read your contract. Have someone else read them for you. Don't ever let anyone change the deal on you. You deserve better. And the best moment was, so when we started Roe, my brother, bless his heart, he's so smart. He's a businessman first. And while I brought a lot to the table as far as my sales experience and what I had going on in the industry before we started Roe, as women, nothing's free. Nothing is free. We have to earn it. And my deal started, I didn't bring in any seed money. So my deal in the beginning of the company, even though I was a co-founder, I helped start it, I had to earn my equity piece. And I had certain things in place that I had to hit. X amount of sales dollars, X amount of accounts that I had to get in by the end of the year in 2016. And hitting those marks at the end of the year and having them come to me and tell me that I earned my equity piece was everything. It was, even though it wasn't maybe to somebody else, but to me, it was, I made it. I earned my equity piece in the company, and so anyway, that was my.
Good for you. Now, in this industry, about 5-10 years ago, it was a female-dominated industry, which was perfect because it's a female plant. And then we saw the shift, and now today it is a male-dominated industry. And that's really unfortunate because men typically only invest in other men. So as successful women in this industry, do you have any advice for women?
I have a lot. Yeah, well, when you think about it, you have to look at look at the amount of money that goes into just women-led companies. So we're talking less than 2% of VC. We're talking about, that's in the whole, all of business. That's not just cannabis. And for me personally, I still retain 85% equity in Kush Queen. I only took about $400,000 in capital from some angels back in 2018 when we went into the regulated market so I could survive. And I have been just holding on to my equity with all I have. I believe in debt over VC. Also, though, it's because you can't really get it. And as much media as I've gotten, as many followers as I have online, you would still be surprised at how many people have laughed in my face when I've asked them to invest in my company. Now, there were opportunities I had when I was going to sell myself short. I had an offer in 2018. A guy was going to write me $1 million check. That was more money than I'd ever had in my life. And the deal fell through on him. He would have made, I don't even know how many X his investment. But I think for me personally, this is the thing I always go back to. It's the thing that I really try to tell other women in the space and men and queer people and everybody. Bet on yourself. Over these years, every time I didn't sell my company and I was offered, I was betting on me. Every day that I show up to my warehouse with my team, I bet on myself. And when you do that, when you create something for yourself, there is no losing. Even the hardest days are the best days because you're building a legacy for your family, for your children, for your future, and more than that, you have control. And the other bit of advice I have right now is just like, it is very scary out here in compliant cannabis. It really is. It's very dark times, and seeing people that were my mentors have to sell their companies, seeing people that were the reason I got into cannabis. I'll never forget seeing some of these women win cannabis cups, and I was in the audience doing social media, and I was like, wow, I could really make products one day. They've sold their companies and they're gone from the industry because they couldn't survive. And I think you can look at it and be like, wow, that's so scary, or you can look at it and be empowered, because the one thing these corporations don't have is you. They don't have a story. They don't have brands. They'll call them brands, but they aren't. And ultimately, you are your biggest advocate. You are everything, your creativity. And I think that that's also it. It's just bet on yourself and really never waver in what you want. I think, you giving advice about get it in writing, get your deal. I mean, it's more than that. It's ask for more. And then remember who you are. For me personally, I created Kush Queen because it did not exist. I wanted that brand for me, for my friends, because I wanted a product to give my grandmother. I wanted a product that could change people's minds, and the ability of my marketing to say and do whatever I wanted, obviously within the regulations and the rules. But really, that's also it. It's just create something for yourself. And the reason I survived is because I made a bath bomb. It's because I made something that nobody's gonna make. I mean, people make them now, but I'm silly. But be unique and innovation. I go back to that. It's these big companies can't innovate. They're too large. They can't. They're not sitting around thinking about how people are going to use cannabis in the future. I mean, even the joint, it's so archaic. Even the way all this is happening, and sure, innovation is always going to be stifled by regulatory bodies and the rules, but I really believe that's where the magic sauce is, and you may not even need a lot of capital to do it. In abundance doesn't necessarily always create this thriving, creative space. It's in scarcity. It's with what you don't have, but be empowered by that. And my last thing is my mantra that has driven me since I got deleted off Instagram since the early days, which is they can't stop you if you don't stop. If you fail forward, if you take every opportunity as a learning experience and you don't let it break you down and you get strong up here and in here, it's always going to work out for you, and you're just going to fail forward and onward, and then you'll be like me, and you'll look back and you'll be like, holy crap, like, how did this happen?
Thank you. I just want to mention, because she talked about something very important. I do have a cannabis book club, and we read a book called Breaking the Glass Ceiling. And it's about 20 women who are profiled, and about 15 of them mentioned that their companies, or somebody that they knew, their companies were taken from underneath them because of the operating agreement. Make sure that you have 3 lawyers, if you can, look that thing over, because that's how they're stealing people's company. You will go from a company owner to an employee in 5 years. So make sure that you are very careful. That trickery is 100% legal. It's how they've been operating for a long time before women have come into the business spaces, and you have to do your due diligence because they are not looking out for you. So that's just a little bit of my advice. And thank you for everything that you mentioned, especially with the Instagram stuff. I've been deactivated 5 times in 5 weeks.
My
Yeah.
cannabis page got taken down 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
worse than that is, someone on Instagram told me I could pay $4,000.
Oh.
The funny reason of why I lost my following, sorry, we'll just go here because we have to. I lost my following in 2015 because I was paying an Instagram employee. I paid over $25,000 at one point to keep all of my accounts up. But there's another lesson, just learn from me. When I got deleted, sure, we're gonna build another page or whatever, but I literally laughed and I was like, well, it doesn't even matter because TikTok is where it's at anyways. And also, I always had platforms. I was on every platform. I will never leave social media because it's the place that I can be myself. It's the place that I can push out the content that I want. And now, even with TikTok, you can't post cannabis there and you'll get deleted. So don't do it. But be wholesome. I have a very wholesome, different kind of content over there, and it's been really fun for me because I get to prove not just to myself and to other people that I can be more than this plant, but it's actually more powerful when people then come to my page and they're like, wait, you're Kush Queen? I'm like, yeah, it's not funny. But it's really, really sad that the platforms have continued to censor. And it's not just cannabis, it's sex workers, it's the Black Lives Matter movement, it's all of these very progressive movements. They are being censored by these apps, and they're completely unfair. But at the end of the day, social media is a great tool. I'm sure it's been a great tool for you. It's a great tool for a lot of brands and a lot of people. But be smart about it. Whenever I got deleted, that's when I started realizing, oh, I can build an email list. I can build an SMS list. I can do mainstream media. I wrote a book. There are so many ways. You just have to keep finding them and, know that they're not against you. It's also that the algorithms have become inherently more sophisticated. Back when I built my following on Instagram, it was just hashtags and, other people reporting me that would get you shut down. Now these algorithms are visually reading. It knows what a nub is. It knows what a joint is. Even if you spell weed differently like we do on TikTok, weed, they figure it out. And so really, right now that climate is very hostile. And the big thing too is just don't let it get you down and always be fully aware that that is going to happen. It's really unfortunate that despite this huge industry in California, you can have your license number in the bio. It doesn't matter. They don't care. And this is why we need federal progress, although they're taking away our rights right now. They are taking away the rights of the most vulnerable women all over this country. And, people can say, well, we'll be safe in California. But at a certain point, I go back to the thing, well, we were expecting progress. We were expecting progress at a federal level for the cannabis space. Even though banking is getting better, things are getting better here. It's just, how can we expect to have this progress that we need for social media, for all of these things, with what we're facing nationwide? So it's really interesting times, and social media sucks. I'm so sorry. Did you get your page back? I've gotten it back. This is my 10th deactivation. So I get it back every time within 7 to 15 minutes of my appeal. But it's like, can we stop, please? The emotions and then the DMs that you get, the people, it's like, it feels like somebody died and you're just telling me everything happens for a reason. I will block you. So yeah, it's just very stressful. Now it's kind of like, oh, that's funny. I'll see you. It's like a 24-hour jail. It's kind of what it feels like now. But
It hurts my page because at any given time I can have 10 posts in circulation, and as soon as I go down, I have to build my engagement back up, which I do because I have such a great community, but it's annoying. It is so
Well, it's
annoying.
also like, think of all the things you can do instead of
Correct.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
A million.
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys all know the social media blues as well. So Joe, can you give us any advice for women who are in the space or entering the space on how to succeed?
Thank you. Okay, so real quick, since you brought up book club and since you touched on like, finding a lane that people aren't in, finding something. I did just want to touch on a book that was recommended to me by somebody that I really respect in the industry. The owner of Presidential, his name is Everett. He's a really smart guy. And he told me to read Blue Ocean Strategy, and it's all about what Olivia was talking about. It's all about that. So if you guys have a chance to check it out, definitely do. And then the other one, it keeps popping in my mind, just seeing all you women. A book by Jen Sincero. It's called I'm a Badass at Making Money. Read that book, honey. Read the book. That was a game changer for me. I just love her and I love what she said. So, okay, real quick, for people that want to get in the space, I have just 2 bits of advice for the people that are in and people that are trying to get in. Go to events. Go to as many events as you can. Go to all the free events. And if events aren't free and you don't have the money for a ticket, hit the people up and ask them if you can volunteer. They'll get in like that. Don't even say, can I volunteer for a free ticket? Just say, can I come and help you with your event? Can I come and help you set up? And you'll just be there already. And the people that you'll meet at these events, all beautiful women just like you guys, and just at any industry events, it's really how you guys will network and you guys will find opportunities. You guys will meet people, incredible people in the industry that are building things. They have stuff going on. They're looking for people just like you, trying to, get in and work. It's hard to find people that, they really want to put their heart and soul into this industry right now. And so for the people that are, you're gonna reap the benefits because people will value you. They need people like that. And if you're already in the industry, same kind of thing, just kind of feeding off of that. If you're already in the industry, I know marketing budgets are tight right now. Ours is tight, so tight. Ask people, because all the events, they cost, ask people if you can get any kind of discount for helping them secure another sponsorship. And that's how you can get your sponsorship down. And they'll tell you, sure, I can get you this amount off. And then you know what your budget is, so you know how many other sponsorships you need to help them get to get your ticket down where you need it. And same kind of thing with the events. Ask them if you can help with their event. And anyways, okay, so that was that. And for people that are in the industry, for me, if I could go back and tell myself something, it would be about really negotiating your deal. As women, it's hard for us sometimes to ask for what we're worth. It's hard to ask for raises. It's just hard when it comes to money. I know women have a lot of blockages sometimes, but three things. One, if the deal is too good to be true, it usually is. If it, even if you get that deal in the beginning, if it's not sustainable, they will cut you off as soon as they can. They're going to cut the money. They're going to cut the commission. They're going to whenever they can, they'll do it. So just know, if you take that deal, you're in it to make as much money as you can right up front, and you got an exit strategy. Number 2, find something that's sustainable long term. It might not be exactly, the highest deal, but if it's something long term, then at least you know that, you work your ass off, you're making what you're making, it's sustainable long term, at least you have some security in that. And 3, and this is what I, as women and as minorities, this is what I would advise. take a lower deal, but ask for equity. We need more women and we need more minority owners in this industry. So take, maybe something lower. Sometimes it might be lower, but ask for the equity. This industry is young, it's growing, and it'll pay off in the long run. And that's what I would tell myself going back.
Well, that concludes my questions. I'd love to open it up for any questions that you all may have for the panelists. Go ahead.
Yeah, Haley Miller from Old House. Hello. Really inspired by both of you. In this time, in this industry, especially in California, with so much happening and just it feeling really stifled and so much merger and acquisition, where are you personally finding inspiration to innovate or to grow or to keep going? Like other than maybe like our family drive, like what are you finding that's inspiring to you in this industry?
Oh my gosh, well, I spend a lot of time on social media, following other women, following other brands. I go to a lot of events. I just keep my eyes open. I love what people are doing. I love the creativity. JoJo's here. She was wearing a necklace that I couldn't keep my eyes off of. It's a weed leaf with circles, and the circles, each one, it
holds the different size joints. You can put a pre-roll in it.
Thank you. And it's just the creativity. And I told her right away, because that's just every time I notice something and just the creativity, it always inspires me. People are so creative, especially women, and especially people in this industry. You with your bath bombs and your social media platform, like they're, just Susie's gonna be on here later. Like she inspires me all the time. Patrice back there, anyways, the women in this industry inspire me, and the creativity, it really keeps me going.
I love it. I do second, but mine is a little spicy. Mine is the fight. I have been in this long enough to see it change. I have been in this long enough to see the corporate takeover. And I want to give her credit. I saw this quote online. I'm blanking on her handle, but it said, "We are in the fight for the soul of this industry." And that fight is where my fire is. It's where it stays. It's because I still walk into boardrooms and I'm the only woman and I'm just a white woman. And then I walk into other rooms and they do not represent the people who paid with their lives. They don't represent the history of the plant. And more than that, they literally have no fucking soul. Not to be like that, but they don't. They are bottom line, money in, money out. It's less of I care about cannabis and more of I care about playing a financial game. And then I go back to gratitude because I am here and I do exist. And because I can exist, you can exist and other women can exist. And then I think, wow, I'm so grateful for my life because I'm not in jail. I'm so grateful because I can fight for people who can't fight for themselves. And I think that if you can inhabit a really authentic emotional space too, I want to fight right now. I'm pissed off. I can't believe where this has gone. And we can sit up here and say diversity and inclusion every single day, but what are we really doing when the numbers are going in reverse? Right. And it's like, I just can't help but think, thank God I'm an activist at heart. Thank God in my heart I want to fight because we have to keep fighting. And I just remember when I wake up in the morning and I do my skincare and I'm having my coffee and I'm like, wow, it's really brutal. Like, I don't know how I'm going to go another day. I just think we have to keep going. And the people that are here for passion, the people that are here because it's their family legacy, the people that are here because maybe they paid with their lives and were locked up, you guys we all deserve to be here so much more than a fucking corporation. And it is truly not what Gen Z wants. It's not what millennials want. It is not the future of even capitalism. And that's what perplexes me is that they're off, in their offices behind their glass desks, also not valuing the lives of their employees. There is a serious issue in this industry that I must give voice to, which is workplace abuse. There are so many people who do not, they don't have the voice. I get DMs all the time of people being sexually harassed, women being scared. And I think that there's so much work to be done, whether it's in a boardroom, whether it's with the plant, whether it is out, getting these people out of prison for what we do every single day, whether it is bringing more queer people into this industry because they also paid with their lives. We have Prop 215 because of queer men and women. It's really important. And I just inhabit that menace energy. Like I said earlier, I said, I am not in a villain era, I'm in a menace era. But I'm not here to be politically correct. I don't have to be. That's why I own my own company, because I won't be controlled. And it is really, really important that people just inhabit some spice, because you're gonna need it. It is not easy, and there are some days that it's like, is all of this gonna fail? If we keep taxing people at 40%, how will anyone buy weed? I mean, I heckled earlier, which I feel bad about, but when you are sitting in a cannabis room and you're saying 60% of the state doesn't have cannabis retail, like, they do have cannabis retail. They're all over. We need to bring them to the industry. We don't need to criminalize them. We don't need the War on Drugs 2.0. We need to bring people into this industry, lower the barrier of entry, and keep in the fight, because that's, for me, that's why I love cannabis. It's because, just like you, everyone told me, oh, you're ruining your life, you're never gonna get a job, you're never gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, like, there was a good group of people who came here because, not because we wanted to be outlaws, but because we wanted to change the world. We wanted to end the war on drugs. And I am very much one of those people, and that is why I think I've survived and I'll keep surviving. No one's getting rid of me, because I love it.
You make such a great point. I think so many people enter this industry like, oh, I'm going to make money, but you have to have some kind of passion. When I first started off, when I was going to events, people were like, cannabis education, how are you going to monetize that? I genuinely didn't know, but I did know that a lot of this information was really difficult to understand, and there needed to be somebody to explain it to the masses. And so I pressed on, and it worked. As long as you have some kind of passion, you can and you will succeed. Another qualm that people were saying, well, it's almost legalized. Fun fact, in the 70s, we had over 30 states with legal medical cannabis programs that were all pushed through the Republican Party. And when Reagan came into office, they all went down the hole, the memory hole, and then we had to start back over again. Prop 215 speared that off because of the LGBTQ community, who were sick. The government underestimated sick people, lobbying them to change the laws, and that's how they were able to do it. We watched what they did with Roe v. Wade. If you don't believe that cannabis is next, you're either asleep or just willfully naive. The fight is just beginning. I always wondered, why wasn't I here in the 70s? Oh, because I needed right now. It's happening again. So, we're going to wrap up this panel and get to the next one, but there will be an opportunity to ask more questions. But thank you so much, Olivia and Joe, for your insight and your wisdom.
So we'll do like a quick, 5-minute. Look at me changing like I'm doing a social equity award show here. But I had to rock my Can a Mom Get a Light t-shirt during the panel. Shout out to Miss Kindness.
That's like real 5 minutes, not smoke for 5 minutes.
Yeah, real 5 minutes, real 5 minutes. I'll do a quick transition.
You want to set back up here?
CED underscore CED underscore Cannabis entrepreneur.
Is my phone there somewhere?
We got 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes before we start our panel. If we can get our panelists up, please. We're coming down to our last minute. We can get everyone wrapping up. Back to your seats. We can have our panelists on up, please. I got you. Please. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started with this next panel. Let's give a round of applause for Social Equity LA for making this happen again. Let's also give a round of applause for Liberate yourselves, for allowing us to be here. Let's give a round of applause for all of you that are still here, enjoying this time, gathering this information. And with that, I'm going to say a joke. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on. We have an amazing panel of more women in the space that I know you guys are going to learn a ton from. I'm excited, again, to just learn a lot more from these three women that are here before you. So we'll go ahead and pass it back off to Tammy and allow this to go on. So Tammy.
Thank you, and that's a dope shirt. All right, so welcome back for panel 2. I had someone ask about my Instagram. It's the Cannabiz Cutie. If you type in Cannabiz Cutie, I do not do what those girls do. A little bit different. I would also follow my backup page, 5 deactivations in 5 weeks. I might go missing. So with that, we'll begin. I have Susie, Hannah, and Tamika with me, and I will allow them to introduce themselves and their business.
There you go.
Hi guys, my name is Susie Plasencia. I'm the brand partner and part owner of UMO, California's Mexican American brand. Yay! I'm also the founder of Latinas in Cannabis, a community organization aimed at empowering Latinas in the cannabis industry, and also co-founder of Multi Glass.
Hannah Ashley, Good Vibes. I'm a vertically integrated operator. I have cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, retail. I also consult for, that's the majority of the work that I do now is I consult for the big brands, Snapchat Boys, Scottie Pippen, Sean Jackson of the brands, the list goes on and on. But really what my most, I think, passionate part of what I do every day is my social equity advocacy work. And that's why I'm connected with CCANA and Social Equity LA. Really, truly like the real flex for me is I've helped, some applicants, probably 10 applicants in the last year become millionaires. That's really the real flex. And, it's the most rewarding part of this industry, but it's been a journey to get here, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But that's what we do.
Help me, Hannah. I want to become a millionaire. I'm gonna be a millionaire. It's like you already are. Now that's the kind of thinking I like. I like that. My name is Tamika Drew. I am the founder and co-owner of Eco Flower, a California cannabis brand. I have a Type 6 manufacturing license, social equity license. I have a retail license that will be opening up in Southeast Los Angeles soon. And I am also the Chief Growth Officer of NUG, which is a vertically integrated retailer in Northern California that seems to be in a lot more places.
Right. So these are three very interesting women here, and we would love to hear more about your story.
Yes, so my story begins in Whittier, California. Shout out to Whittier, if anybody knows where that is. Right? A little past East LA. That's where I was raised. And cannabis wasn't really a part of my very traditional Mexican upbringing. It just wasn't something that was, in the household. My father was always like into more of the herbal plant medicine, but not necessarily cannabis. So it was always kind of like, is this okay? Is it not? It wasn't until I started working in the industry. I started as a bed tender in the trap market, right? And then, so it was an interesting time, but it taught me a lot from the beginning to be able to be where I'm at now. And I think that having cannabis be so stigmatized in the Latino community really gave me the passion to what I'm doing now, which is I'm an advocate for Latinos using cannabis and an advocate for this destigmatization, which I know can be achieved through the right education, right? A lot of this stigma that we deal with in Latino community is largely in part because of this miseducation. But with the proper education and through career opportunity, career development, those are the two strongest tools we have towards destigmatization and more normalization among the Latino communities, but other communities of color as well. So that's been my personal passion, my personal mission that I've been doing. But I've been grateful that the fact that, working with UMO and developing this new brand, has given me the opportunity to bring in my passion through these businesses. And when you are passionate about what you do, you will always win. And that's why I think that UMO, Latinas in Cannabis, and Multi Glass have all skyrocketed. It's because we have a mission, a purpose, and it's rooted in diversity and inclusion for all.
Sorry, what was the question? Yeah, so my story, I'm Korean, born in South Korea, adopted by Caucasian family, beautiful people. So I grew up very, in a religious Republican family. We did not, but farmers, but we did not, cannabis was not part of our world at all. No alcohol, we didn't celebrate Halloween. So just imagine, me telling I went to UC Berkeley, and that's actually my introduction into cannabis. And I don't know if a lot of you might know, but, the Bay Area is such deep culture with cannabis. And organic and plant medicine. And that's really my fight, is the destigmatization of this plant, right? Which is a healing plant to help us with trauma, generational trauma, things that we shouldn't be carrying, right? I read this story on social media and it touched me so deeply. This woman said, without cannabis, she would have been dead because of her depression, right? So this is my fight. Like I didn't consume cannabis when I entered the space, but I entered the space, one, because I've always wanted to be in the boys club. I always wanted to do what the boys were doing. I had to, but I just really believe in organic, holistic health. And, I think the boys are doing their thing, and I think we need diversity, we need inclusion, but we need the passion, right? And so I'm so grateful that you all are here, by the way, and you look amazing. It's so nice to see everyone dressed up. But there's not enough women. I'm so tired of going to these meetings, and again, I'm at the table and 10 men and me. That needs to stop. I want to see beautiful faces, but powerful women, and that's really I'm here on a mission to help inspire young girls, right? That they can own their life. That I'm a single mom. I have 2 boys. My youngest is autistic, nonverbal, and that's really my why, right? That's my driver. That's what motivates me every day. Is that I'll look at the younger generation as if you are all my kids too, right? I'm fighting this fight for you, for me, because right, if I win, we win. If another woman sits at the table, we win. We keep winning. We keep doing it, right? And so that's really what I'm doing. And I work with these big brands, but I'm very selective on who I work with, right? Sizzy is they're for the culture. The brands that I work with, you must have the culture in order to survive in this cannabis industry today, right? We see MedMen failing, white corporate America. It's failing, and the reason why is because they're not connected to the plant. They're not connected to this industry. They're not connected to the culture, South Central LA, what the people really want, right? So we need to all come together in events like this, right? Unite, because our voice together is so much stronger.
I had to chuckle while you were sharing your story, Hannah, because we have so much in common. So I come to cannabis because cannabis saved my life. Like so many people, and like the Kush Queen was telling us, you really have to have a passion to even want to continue on in this industry where you keep getting knocked down and you keep getting told so many lies about what is required of you, really, like as a woman, to take up space in this industry. So, I think that's kind of the 2 parts of what I aim to do in the industry. I came to the industry as a medical patient, and I built a brand because I was passionate about creating products that were not only effective for me, but that reflected my values, my passions, and what it was to be a woman. I saw a real kind of sterilizing of the cannabis culture in general, and a lot of us kind of being told that only a certain type of minimalist, clean aesthetic was going to be able to sell cannabis, which basically means Black women, you out. Nothing about you is something that can sell cannabis. And we have a lot of things. You buy weed from Black women, this and that, but how many Black women are out there selling weed? How many of us have actually been able to create a path where we can sell weed, right? And those of us who have, we've pushed in, we've made arguments. It's not like we just asked and then we received. It was nothing like that. It was a battle to get into this space and say, I deserve to be here. I can do this. And so with Biko, I really wanted to celebrate my culture. I'm just a mixed girl from the Midwest, and I was very much told, you don't come from anything but slaves my whole life. It was kind of this constant reversion, very homogenous white society, Catholic upbringing, very Republican family as well. And that was very painful for me.
And as soon as I kind of found out what I was through my ancestry DNA test, I wanted to celebrate that. So I found out that I have Nigerian heritage, and so Biko means please in Nigeria. And what don't we want other than please give me my medicine, please give me my cannabis, allow for me to have safe access. And that's what we want to create with Biko. And then our first product is called Arjuseo, and that means please pass me in Korean. And my husband, our co-owner, is Korean. And so we wanted to really celebrate also that coming together of cultures, because that's really what the plant does. It helps bring us together and also like celebrate that love between communities and that collaboration that we have culturally in this country. Something that, especially in a time where Black community and Asian community are seen as postured against each other oftentimes, we have to have more ways that through cannabis we are normalizing other things. We are, bringing a conversation, different conversations to the front, and so that brings me to the second part of my story is like money and representation as a part of corporate cannabis. And what I was seeing, I come from the legacy market, back in the day, ran a delivery service for a while, which is how I ended up being a social equity applicant in the Los Angeles framework. And what I was seeing is that women were allowed to do whatever they wanted as long as they created their own business and then set their own terms, which is great, which obviously I believe in I'm doing. But I also believe it's really important for us to get inside of these companies and be able to have the ability to make decisions, right? The ability to help spend the money, to determine who the partners are going to be, to determine how we grow, what's our strategy, how do we look at communities that we enter. Those are spaces we need more women. And so that's been a part of who I've been in this space, is saying, hey, I can have a brand, I can be a social equity licensee, but I also can be a powerful executive that's moving up and showing how we can, be a part of this industry in all ways and not just when we create a path for ourselves.
Thank you. So again, we're in a male-dominated industry where our value is not explicitly stated. How did each of you determine your value in business?
Well, I think in the previous panel we discussed the importance. Joe, shout out to Joe. She mentioned the importance of really making sure that you're like a vocal partner in your deals. You're not just accepting what's there, or even if you trust the person, you're still gonna have your lawyer look at it. I think that one of the ways that it's been great with UMO is that my partners there recognized what I was bringing to the table before I even entered the table. And I think that when you are someone that is looking to achieve something, if you're going to put it out there and manifest, I'm going to be the owner of a cannabis company, already start kind of thinking what that means, so that when you're presenting with that opportunity, you kind of know exactly what to do. I feel like I manifested that I was going to be an owner of a cannabis company when I saw Multi Glass really growing. Mentioned Multi Glass, we support local glass blowers here in the Los Angeles area. A lot of them are mostly Latino. And I knew that I was like, Multi Glass is really exploding. I could see similar vibes for a cannabis brand. So I made a decision at that point, like it's gonna happen. A huevo, as we say in Spanish. Like I'm gonna force this, like in one way or another. So I made that decision at that point. So when my partners over at Possible Project, the parent company of UMO, they saw the moves I was making with Multi Glass, and they were like, she's the one, And so they got a meeting with me to figure out what that conversation looks like. So I believe that I started kind of making my worth known to the people before they're even potential partners to me. The people who saw my press for Multi Glass and Latinas in Cannabis knew my worth before even UMO was in the picture. So I started negotiating before the negotiation, and the way you can do that is through social media. You look at Cannabis Cutie, anyone that wants to meet her at the table, she already kind of negotiated at some point because of her following. So similar to me, people knew me from the LA Times because of my advocacy. They knew me as a business person from Multi Glass and Latinas in Cannabis. So by the time I got to that table, they were like, what? Now I had the cards, you know what I'm saying? So when it comes to navigating your worth, start before the table is even there. envision that, right? Manifest what that table looks like, because there comes a time where you are the one building the table. I feel like for Latinas in Cannabis, that's what Latinas in Cannabis, our organization, has become. The table was not there for us in the cannabis industry. So you know what? We made it. We made it. On Instagram, follow us, Latinas_Cannabis. That's the table right there. So you negotiate your worth, and you're the one that makes it. These men that call you for that table, you're coming to my table. So that's how you do it, ladies. Let's do it together.
So important. I think it's really setting a goal, right, and being laser focused on that goal, but also knowing your worth from the very beginning, right? It's about believing in yourself. Bet on yourself. If you believe in yourself, other people will too. You know, I built my business organically, not on social media, because I am a single mom, and I was in a nasty child custody battle with a federal informant. Yeah, so I've been very low key and behind the scenes, quietly, and understanding, right, like the regs, the ins and outs, like understanding every part of the business, right? Being a vertical operator, like I needed to understand the licensing, the regs, the money, the investment, right? So I think, you know, if you do all of that, right, you set your value. If you learn every part of the business, you know, I was not going out, I wasn't dating, I lived, eat, and breathe. This was my third child, right? This is my baby. Like this, so the worth part though is so important. Like, just know, I mean, all of you sitting here today are one rebels, and you know, like we're all of the same mindset here, right? Because you're here, and know that you are worth every penny and more, right? And you determine the price. They don't determine the price. You do. To get me on the phone, you pay me $25,000 because that's the value of my time, right? When I need to prioritize time for my kids too, right? So my time is valuable. But I have something that's valuable, right? Like I understand the business. I understand from investment. I understand from logistics. I understand from who's really operating LA, right? Who are the cultivators? Who are the best cultivators, right? It's about being the best, then you are the best, and you set your worth.
I love what these ladies have had to say because it very much focuses on the fact that you are the most important thing. Your asset is secondary to you and your value. And you know, I think early on for me, I did not think about that. And I think when I really changed my mind over to understanding that this license is not actually the end all be all and the deal that I can get behind this license. It's really more about this is an asset and how can I make this asset work with the larger empire that I'm trying to build, right? And it's like when we went through the social equity licensing in LA, the first round, that first 100, I didn't get a license through that first 100. So it really took that people power on the ground, suing the city of Los Angeles and then getting those extra 100 licenses for me to even be in play. And I think that that's kind of like something that in this industry we also have to remember. We have to remember that one day we may be negotiating a deal. It all sounds great. It might fall apart. Then it might be back on the table a year later because this is what we're dealing with. And then one other piece of advice that I give is that don't take no easily, right? If you want something and you may be presenting, you know, the sky that you want, and then the partner or whoever it is that you're pitching comes back and they're like, no, like we're going to give you this little rock. We're offering you the rock. And you're thinking to yourself, like, how can I possibly get from the rock to the sky? But you actually can. Like, people actually love to negotiate and to have you make it make sense. I think that part of what we have to get better as like women and people that are outside of kind of like that white male structure of what they don't understand, what we're bringing to the table, that creativity, that innovation, us making it make sense and making them understand what we bring and what we have for them that's unique that they can't get anywhere else, because sometimes they don't even know. So if you're able to paint that picture and you're able to show how, you know, your particular deal or the way that you're looking at it actually makes sense from a business perspective for them as well, they'll be willing to look at it differently. Like education happens all the time. We are still in the Wild West. So it's oftentimes up for us to educate our potential partners about what is actually the better deal and what is a creative solution that can make everybody happy.
You guys all brought up a great point. Now, the way that creation works is it happens twice. First, in the mind. You have to be able to conceptualize it and build it and see it before it can actually manifest in the physical. So absolutely, you can manifest whatever you want. I know when I started cannabis education, in my mind, I was going to be PR for the plant. Like, she's a spirit. I'm her PR. That's it. And again, as I said last panel, a lot of people didn't really see it or understand it, but I didn't care. And the people that have come to me, it blows my mind, the people that I have worked with and that I'm working with to educate the public on cannabis, to be the speaking head for the spirit of this plant. So if you can see it and you can create it, it can happen. There's a reason why you've never been able to see yourself as an astronaut. It's probably not part of your path. If you can see this, you can create it. You just have to believe in yourself. If you believe in you, they will believe in you. That's really what it comes down to. All right, so as you sit here, we have plenty of social equity applicants, and you all know that you cannot raise money in a traditional sense like other businesses, no bank loans, and then the lenders that are out here can be predatory. How have you successfully raised capital to further your business?
Yes. So the best capital is the kind that is community-based. And so before I had my partners like Possible Projects to do something bigger like Umo, it was me and my business partner doing Mota Glass, doing looking into cannabis and figuring out how do we make this happen with as little capital as possible, but enough to make it move, right? And so we relied on the community. I'm a storyteller. I've been a storyteller for almost 10 years building brands. So we relied on story to reach the people. We relied on that and showing people transparency about our brand and gaining that trust. That trust has gotten me here. And we had no budget for my other brand. So I can't tell you on raising capital for Mota Glass because we got to the LA Times with no capital. None. And I think that we have this idea that capital is the end all, right? We have this idea, just need to get capital, Look at what we did with Mota Glass and Latinas in Capital with literally $0, nothing but connection with people, social media, which it is grassroots. That is grassroots right there because it is, unless you use promotion, it is free. It's connecting to the people. So I think that don't let yourself get bogged down with capital too much. Like, yes, it gets to the level where like, oh, I need to get some capital when you need to make that next level. But try and challenge yourself to see how far you can go with no capital or community capital or friendship capital. Your time is capital. Your presence is capital. So shout out to Jo again. She mentioned about going to events and making yourself, resourceful. That's capital. You can't tell me that that's not worth anything. So don't put your end all on this capital and get out there and make yourself your first investor, first of all. But when it comes to reaching out to capital, make sure that you fully vet those people out. Because for those of you who have been watching my journey from many years ago, shout out to the people who know about La Chingona. If you don't know about that, you can see about that on the LA Times. But that was a situation where I was presented capital. And I looked it up. I was like, who are these people? What's going on? And I chose to back out from that situation. So you can learn more about that situation on the LA Times with the La Chingona. But that's an example of don't get blindsided by capital and thinking that, oh, I got capital, now my dreams can come true. No. Especially when it comes to real capital, they want to know that you've already done it because they want to invest in an idea that's already coming through.
You're never going to get a serious investor that's just going to fund your idea with just an idea or business plan. You really need to be out there showing that you can do it. And the reason why UMO happened is because Latinas and Multiglass happened too. These investors came in being like, okay, we're going to bet on her because she already bet on herself. So remember that one right there.
On what you said is it's really important that you show any investor, right, that you can do it on a small scale, right? So scale your business, one, right? Start off slowly, build it up. And try to self-fund it as much as possible. Like Olivia, still owns majority equity in her company. It's really important for us women, right? So build it up, with as much self-funding as you can. When you grow it enough, then put a business plan together. Those two things will get you money. Numbers, right? So investors are looking for numbers, right? Bottom line. But I think a lot of these investors, right, are also looking for authenticity. Do you believe in yourself? All of those things are really important. So again, the experience will also help you find funding, right? Like you learn, right? No one's going to give you $1 million, nothing, right? So you got to build that. And then keep in mind that all money is not good money, right? I named my company Good Vibes for a reason. It's really important that, I might take $4 million versus a $10 million offer, right? Just off the vibes. Like, are you good people? Can I go to work with you? Do we believe in the same things morally, ethically, on a impact, right? So those are things I look for with money. But then again, like social equity, such an amazing time right now. Got early on, there was nothing. There was no equity program. There was no, fee waivers. There was nothing. I think one of my licenses cost $40,000 on just the state level. There was no money. So again, like there's so many resources in place. If you really want it, you will find it, right? There's so much access on the DCR website, on state. Like they want to see this social equity program succeed. Early on, they got a lot of flack, but they were building this new industry, flying a plane as we're right, like navigating this plane. So I think like there's so much access to it now. Really hone in on what you want to do, what your business is going to be, and laser focus on that, and the money will come.
Well, I really just will add that, BECO is 100% self-funded. So it's definitely hard out here in these streets to raise money, but I really haven't tried to raise money as such yet because kind of like what Coach Queen was saying earlier, I want to own my business, and I think that value-aligned partners and collaborators who are kind of understand your trajectory and what you're building are actually can be worth more than capital. Because if you can find partners, let's say, for example, you're a new brand, but you've got some good relationships with retailers, right? And you know for a fact that your new brand is going to be carried in 3 or 4 major retailers. You might be able to take that information to value-aligned partners. You don't want to just talk to anybody, obviously, but partners that say they're about social equity, they're about inclusion. You've seen who their partners are. You can approach them and say, hey, I have these sales that I know I'm going to get. Would you be willing to produce my product on a white labeling agreement? And then all of a sudden, you're able to put a product into market. You don't need any capital up front except for maybe what you might need to use to pay for the packaging or whatever it is that you work out with that partner. But all of a sudden, you're able to enter a market in a compliant way with a value-aligned partner that's going to make money because you're going to make those sales. They're giving you that on terms. So it's kind of like creatively figuring out how you can get what you need to get done without cash. And sometimes, of course, cash is going to have to exchange hands, but if you can sell that product first, or if you can sell most of that product first, and you can get into that market and prove your concept that way, that's going to be a way that then later on you'll be able to raise money. So my strategy with Bico was very much to do that. Was I knew for a fact that nobody was going to invest in a Black woman-owned cannabis brand without that concept being proven. Point blank period. You know, that's just a reality. So for me, I had to be able to show solid sales. I had to be able to show what my revenue looked like after a year. I had to be able to show that growth, how many stores we're in. And even though, you know, we weren't able to push forward as fast as we could have if we would have taken funding and given away a big part of the business, the way that capital is right now, it's not a great time to be giving away parts of your business. You know, everybody's trying to underpay and overpromise what it might look like in the future. So it's kind of like hang tough for now if you can. Hang on, be able to really show those bigger numbers because they're going to be able to give you a bigger return later. And I'll share from what I've been hearing, you know, right now people are trying to invest like half rep. So if you're saying, hey, I sold $500,000 worth of cannabis with my brand last year, they'll say, it's worth about $250,000. And so, you know, it's a very tough time to say, how can you make a valuation make sense in that kind of a climate? You can't. So we're holding on for a time where 280E makes everything, you know, make more sense, where the supply chain has evened out a little bit, where we have more places to sell. You know, all of these things are constraints in the market for us early adopter brands, which all of the folks in this room that I see are. Congratulations for being such, because it's not easy.
Thank you. And thank you for all of the wisdom that you all provided. Welcome, DJ Charisma. I'm sure most of you know who she is, but she's also a female in the space who has a successful and fire cannabis brand. Do you have anything that you would like to say before we open up to Q&A?
No, I feel like I should be out there. You know, I'm new to the business. I have a lot to learn about it. I know my DJing, I was successful in that. Cannabis, I've been wanting to get into for years, you know, and I finally met some guys who were willing to take a chance with me, help me out. And I should be out there with y'all. I'm trying to learn too. So go to the game.
Thank you. All right, so we'll open it up to Q&A if anybody has any questions. Go ahead.
How do you recommend standing out as a new brand and like industry that exactly?
How to stand out? Does anybody want to take that?
Yes. So there's no one in this world that is exactly you, right? So really give into your authenticity. Like that is what's gonna make you stand out from these shelves. A lot of the patients, the customers, they want something to identify with. And I'm talking like Umo right now is speaking to those Latinos who have not been represented in this industry. I am giving into my authenticity 100%. And I think that we're one of the fastest growing, you know, brands in California because of that. There are a lot of people who walk into these dispensaries and they see like, that speaks to me. And I think that someone's gonna speak to what you feel as well. So give into your authenticity, and when you do that, there won't be another thing that you're like, because it's like you, right? So find your people, find your community. For me and my businesses, it's definitely been Latina community. For those who are underrepresented, who haven't felt like they've been spoken to in this industry, I did that with all my brands. And I feel like we built this tribe of Latinas who are like-minded. I think that there's your tribe out there, and it's just about giving into your authenticity and developing something that other people haven't seen yet.
For me, like I just took advantage of the brand I built for myself already. So like I've been really blessed in a lot of the top stores, the cookies, the lemonades, and I've just been really taking full advantage. And that's why I think my marketing is going so well. I have all this access to artists, and like there are hundreds and hundreds of brands, and I'm just taking advantage of my name, especially in California. And definitely we got Vegas reaching out and just trying to take advantage. If you got something that does work, stick with it and just keep going. A lot of people are like, don't call it charisma, call it something totally different. And I was like, nah, I just know that this is gonna be what it is. Like, trust me, like people walk up to me all the time, charisma, that could translate into the weed. But I'm just taking full advantage, and maybe as I go forward, I'll come up with another brand. But for me, I just stuck with my gut, stick with your gut, and yeah, it's working. So to the haters.
For me, I would say don't be afraid to take your filter off. I think I was really polite in the first part of my career. And the more I took my filter off and just started telling it exactly as I felt it, just off my chest and off my heart, the faster I was, saw myself rise. And I think that strength and that authenticity is really what this industry needs, and it's what the industry needs from us uniquely, right? And so don't be afraid to be authentic. And then to DJ Charisma's point, don't be afraid to exploit your community. Like if you have a unique community that you already have attachments to that you want to serve, for me, it's like, I want to serve the medical community. I want to serve women. I want to serve other women connoisseurs. Like we're not sticking a toe in, like our toe is constantly in, it is emerged, So, exploit that community and don't be afraid to tell people, especially investors, like I have a unique connection to a community that I am serving, and that's what makes me different.
I said, don't be afraid if you're coming to market and you're like, oh, this product already exists. You go to the grocery store, there's like 100 different waters and they all taste the same except Dasani. I don't know what's wrong with that water, but yeah. Like Susie said, you are your own self. Step into that. It's called in business, it's called being a differentiator. So for me, I'm not the only one speaking about cannabis, but I'm doing it in a way that even an elementary kid can understand it, and that was my differentiator. So just figure out what makes you unique and really push that. Any other questions? Branding.
I love that question.
I really just wanted to do it for my lady smokers.
Yeah.
I really did. And, so I just wanted a cool, chill vibe, purple, like, just more feminine type colors. The artist that actually did this for me is McFly. He did all of Chris Brown's covers, artwork that were drawn. So this is my boy. He's been working with me for years. I'm like, nah, I want something hand-drawn, exclusive for me. Anime, just fun, hip vibes, and that's really what I went with mine. So, woo! Okay.
Well, for me, I had like a vision board that I was creating for the brand. And in the middle of it, like I scrolled Vico with my handwriting, and then I had everything that I wanted the brand to become. Some of which it has become, some of which we're still growing into. But then when it came time to make the actual logo, I decided I just kind of wanted it to be like what I was looking at on that vision board for a year. So I decided to adopt a cursive logo. And then when I was doing my brand research, I realized there really wasn't cursive logos for cannabis. And I think that does speak to the fact that like women aren't really putting a whole lot of touch onto these things. So I felt that was unique. On the Ease menu, which is where we launched, we were the only brand with a cursive font. So I thought that was cool, and it was a good thing to kind of reflect the fact that like I'm an artist, and this brand is very much for artists and organizers, and so I did want to kind of reflect that with the way that we look.
Yes, so Umo's branding and brand is all women. All women cannabis. So so our branding, if you guys have seen our logo up there, it's very much inspired by a lot of this classic kind of tones. It definitely follows that kind of iconic, aesthetic. We wanted to go with stuff that's reminiscent of like Topo Chico, old style, those kind of branding that's familiar. The folks who built it, it's actually a women-owned like marketing agency out of I believe they're out of Monterrey, Mexico. So we work with them, and they do a lot of our aesthetic. But in terms of the writing and the actual brand building, that was all me and my brain up here. And this is something, we talked about authenticity. I wanted to build a brand that was really representative of not just Mexican Americans in LA, but definitely all Latinos coming together. On the packaging, we have craft grown raza owned, which is something that we feel really special about because we are mixed light. We are sustainably grown cannabis. I think people are waking up to being able to grow mixed light, and the fact that you can get
high THC, but still an influx of really tasty terpenes. So with the brand, we wanted to let people know that when you walk into dispensaries, you can see Raza represented, right? You can see a brand that represents you and our Latino farmers up in the Salinas area. So we wanted to make sure that with the branding, it was clean, it conveys growth. We're here to stay. We're a Mexican American owned brand that is here building, staking our claim, and we have plans on growing, and we wanted to convey that with our branding and our merch. But the branding, when you guys pick up Umo at any of our dispensaries, you can really read everything because I wrote it, but also because it's meaningful. We really wanted to build a brand that stood out because everything is intentional, from the strain names to the strain descriptions. Everything's written from the heart, and I think that it sings when you go into the dispensary. You can see something's different here, very intentional. And aside from the aesthetic, it's a brand with purpose in every inch of it. But the brand, its logo itself, we're really proud that it's becoming like an iconic, Umo H, So yes, I'm excited to keep on growing it with you guys.
Also know that whatever you start with, you can change. I just went through a full rebrand. I had like a cute cursive pink logo, and it's like, well, I'm education, so university font it is, and that feels so much better for CUNY University, which is also a rebrand for me. So what you start with can absolutely change as you change and grow. Nothing has to be static. All right. One more? Okay.
Hi, Mariah. I am the owner of Gonzalons. As an Afro-Latina entrepreneur, I just have any questions as far as what mistakes that you made early on in your cannabis career that you wish you could avoid it, so I can also avoid it.
Can I
have
answer?
any advice as far as that goes?
Yeah, I named my LLC the Cannabis Cutie. I was automatically rejected at everything. I mean, and it still follows me. So that, as an Afro-Latina entrepreneur, I wish somebody would have stopped me. But I still, I'm a PayPal girl. Because, yeah, that follows me. Even though I changed the name, doesn't matter. When you Google me, that leaf pops up.
I think that, gotta come back to that authenticity. I think that, I went to school for a really long time. And when you go to school for a really long time, as a Latina, you kind of start code switching. You have a way that you communicate with the white community, all the professors, yes, so Kevin, that's hilarious. And then you talk to, your people, and then you're like yourself, and you realize, wait, I'm two different people. So I think early on entering the cannabis industry, I was confused as hell. I'm like, I'm a cannabis smoker, but I'm also highly professional. And wait, like I'm talking to someone who's a Latina who I can be myself around, but I don't want them because to be like that because I have to be professional. Well, what does professional mean? Re-educating yourself about what these words mean now as your own professional journey grows and changes. That's something that I had a hard time with early on in my professional cannabis career, is giving into my full self, being authentically me in all ways. And yeah, I do have a master's from USC. Yeah, I'm a corporate person. But you know what? I just smoked a blunt before coming in here. Right. And I can do both. And so yes. But be authentically you and don't be afraid of it, because I, as a Latina, I hid that for a long time because I didn't want these other people to not think I was a professional. I didn't want them to think that, oh, I got to this level and oh, how'd she get here? She must be married to some white man who got her in this room. Like, no, don't do that. Right. I'm here because I am authentically everything that I bring to the table. So don't be afraid to be yourself, because I know that early on, I can admit that I was not. I was trying to be that professional person. And then when it was in cannabis, I was just really confused and had a hard time adjusting because I was fully a cannabis user, consumer, fully professional. Can they exist? They can. They can.
Mistakes well, not really mistakes, but things I'm learning. Like I'm in a whole new industry, so there's a whole bunch of new people to network with and connect with, and I just gotta, even though I'm super busy as a DJ, if I wanted to do this, I did it all on my own dollar. I gotta do it. I gotta still do the groundwork. So I've been walking into local small shops, giving them a sample, and just me. So you know what I mean? Just really putting in groundwork, hardcore. Like I ain't like nobody knows me. So that's like probably the thing I'm like really getting to. It's a whole new world. We're just meeting, you know, like it's a whole new world of people to meet and networking and all that. So very important.
I have two. The first one is not a mistake I've made, but I think it's a mistake that's been made about me oftentimes. But it's that this is a really small industry, and you will run into people again, and who knows what position they're going to be in this time around, right? Because when I started out in the industry, I was not in the position I am now, and there's a lot of people now that would want favors from me. It's like, I remember exactly how you treated me 3 years ago. And so that favor will never happen. And not only that, like, I'm going to get to the call for you now. So don't forget, because I'm sure there were people waiting to do that all over here. And then the last piece of advice I would say is be easy on yourself. You know, be easy on yourself all the time. Because I think once you start this journey, all of a sudden, like, you've got to succeed. Right? Like there's no losing here. We're in this federally illegal industry now. We're putting all our chips in. We're putting money down. We're taking risks. We have families. Like I have 4 kids. I have a severely autistic child at home as well, which is my why of like why I'm trying to make a lot of money. And I think that so often like we're very hard on ourselves. Any mistakes we might make. And you know, I know in the early part of my career, I took a lot of positions that I was not getting paid what I was worth. And then later on, a lot of people shamed me for that. They were like, oh, you should have never taken that position. You know, you didn't have enough self-worth. And it's like, okay, I needed to learn what I was doing in this industry as well. Like I was taking opportunities as it made sense for me in my life. And like, don't let people make you feel bad about your journey. And like, you know, just be easy on yourself because nobody's going to be easy on you. And be easy on each other. Like I see every single woman in this room. Like if there's something I can do to help you, please come to me, ask me for help. And I hope I can lean on you all as well as we continue to maneuver this space. And I think that's one of the most important things too, is like, remember that we have each other and this is hard and like reach out. There's so many people I've reached out to that I haven't known at all that have been incredible resources for me. And I hope other people do the same for me as well.
So much game given here today. I hope you all learned. Let's give one last round of applause for all. Did incredible. The networking continues. I'm going to pass the mic back to Danny to let you know what's coming next, but please feel free to ask whatever questions that were not asked to any of the panelists, and I hope to talk to some of you soon.
Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you the panelists, the sponsors, the partners, and all of you for staying so long in this heat. Welcome to the valley. That ain't from out here. You know, similar to just what I'm hearing, you know, it's all about your passion and your purpose and believing in yourself. You know, Social Equity LA started 3 years ago putting together information sessions when the cannabis became legal in California. Went from there, people needed more. They needed resources. We gave them resources. They needed investments. We were able to get a few people licensed. And today, you know, we own a delivery license and we're here in the industry. So it can happen, you know, wherever you start. The panelists have said, you know, it's just a matter of following and believing in yourself because it's going to be hard no matter your gender, especially as minorities. So with that,
one thing, just with Social Equity LA. So July 25th is the end of the re-verification process for social equity. If you believe you're a verified social equity applicant, reach out to Social Equity LA and we can help you with the verification process. But please get all your paperwork together, which is you have to meet 2 of the 3 requirements. Have a cannabis conviction prior to cannabis conviction or arrest prior to 2018, a cannabis conviction or arrest, okay, just need a record of that. Low income, which is below 36,000, unless you have children, then the tax changes on that. Or live in a disproportionately impacted zip code. That's all available on the DCR website, but Social Equity LA can help you. All right.
thank you, Hannah. Hannah and a few others, Christian, and just made up volunteer, 501c3. We're here to just provide back. So any information you need, we're here. We're here to help people that want to help themselves. With that, I'll pass it to Danny. He'll kind of go over the next networking and just really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
All right, how did everybody enjoy this event today? You guys got way more energy this time than myself. Thank you for that. As everyone's been mentioning, this is a space that there's a lot of learning, a lot of networking that we can have going on. And so we're going to continue this event with having some networking. Make sure to speak to whoever you want to speak to. I hope you spent this time kind of like pinpointing, like, okay, I want to speak to this person, I want to speak to that person right after. Make sure to also visit our vendors that are in the space. Shout out to our vendors that are here taking their time. Make them. Got a few more in the back. The last shameless plug again, Set Connects. Go ahead and listen to our episodes. If you guys want to be on the show, hit me up. I'm always available. We've had Susie on the episode. We've had Tiana on the episode. We're looking to get everyone else on the panel on an episode. And then lastly, the last piece I'd like to say is going back to Luis's point, we as minorities can work together and come together. I myself have been working in this industry for quite a few years now, starting as a driver for a retailer, then as a distributor. And I kind of moved my way up on the ranks until finally I've now received my own distribution license. So I'm one of the few Latino licenses. So if you guys have any questions also within the space of distribution, manufacturing, retail, feel free. I'm always an open book, and I'd love to be able to help you navigate your journey as well in any capacity that I can. All right. So with that being said, we'll go ahead.
I briefly forgot. We did have some swag. Some of those of you guys who got the bags from Kush Queen, please give a round of applause for Liberate. Also, Her Highness had some products, and for those of you that are registered, Stizzy's also donated some of their infused pre-rolls. Fire. But we had some this legal event, so we can't have the product here. We'll get you that coupon in your email box as far as for the Stizzy. Order at ccanna.com.
And just last piece, support all the women with their brands. Because I know the pink box is still out there floating around at some retailers. Make sure I know Bico has their products in that pink box, which is a women-owned box of brands. I know Kush Queen had their brands in there. Queen Mary had theirs in there. Uma was also in there. I personally bought the box myself. That bath bomb was amazing. So I took it from my wife. I was like, I'm using this. But support all the women brands that are out there. And at that, thank you guys for coming. Again, a round of applause for Social Equity LA. I lost track of the Liberate yourself, the location, right? Tammy, as a moderator, thank you. And thank you guys. All right, and with that, I think Charisma, you gonna play some tunes today? Is that what's going down? Can I just throw you under the bus there? We got a DJ set. Carry one. Okay, well I guess not.
We'll put some music in the meantime. There's some mimosas and some more food there. So.
Let's ask him if we can end the live.